Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a movie review. I'm finally back to doing some movie reviews now that I have a little bit more time with Watchmen wrapping up, a new video on that upcoming, if not out already. Wrapped up on Titans recently, that's great. So now I have a lot more free time to actually talk more about movies and trailers and things that I actually have been dying to talk about for a while. Now this one, I'm going to be releasing more around Christmas. It's already around Christmas that I'm recording this, but I want it to be more of that holiday release because I think this is now going to be one of those instant Christmas classics, at least in regards to my thoughts of a Christmas movie. So today I'm talking about the movie Klaus. Now this one can be found on Netflix. It is a Netflix original film, I believe. Animated movie, which is great. There's a ton of great holiday movies out already. Tons of great ones you can watch now. My son is currently obsessed with The Grinch. But this one is actually really good because of the animation, the storyline that I didn't really see coming or really know what to expect from this movie. I just heard it was good, so I decided to watch it. And it actually ended up being a phenomenal movie, not only in terms of animation, like I said, but just storyline and instant classic. I think it definitely has what it takes to be that kind of movie, and I'm really excited to talk about it. So Klaus is essentially the story of a postman who's a little bit more privileged, but his father, who runs sort of like the post office or post service, decides to send him off to this really remote town where he's going to have to set up and establish a post office that a lot of people have failed at. So that's sort of his final mission. He either does it or he's cut off. Of course, those are those sort of stories where they're always going to pull through because it's kind of for selfish reasons. I'll get to that in a little bit. But this one, he goes to this town. It's actually a feuding town where there's sort of like a Romeo and Juliet thing kind of happening, where one half of the town really hates the other half. They're always messing with each other in terms of like attacking each other or causing some type of disturbance with the other group or clan, whatever you want to call them. And they kind of have this big back and forth. Now, it's this postman's job to be able to set up the post office where he eventually finds out that he has to send or have received a certain number of letters. Now, with those letters, he decides to start this program where these kids are going to be essentially giving him letters after he discovers this man in the woods who gives a toy to another little boy. This is the terrible synopsis that I'm giving you. It's a lot better than this, I promise you. But there's a lot of build-up to get to the whole Santa and Christmas storyline. It took a while for this movie to get here, but it's worth the payoff in terms of getting there. So essentially, it's the origin story of Santa. This postman sort of helps in establishing the idea of Santa. That's essentially the main story. The town all gets together in the end, but you're not really surprised by that. It's a kids' movie. Of course they're all going to be happy. But the origin story of Santa was the most intriguing part of this. I liked a lot that a lot of what our concept of Santa is that they sort of discover in this movie, or how they establish him, is really, really clever. So he's just kind of a normal guy who went through a little bit of a tragedy, we find out later in the movie, but who essentially is helping these kids that he sees by giving them a toy. This toy changes these kids' lives in a way that honestly will bring a tear to your eye. It's kind of a tearjerker movie at several points, but I still highly recommend watching it. So the idea that this guy is giving presents to kids who essentially are writing him letters asking him for it. So that's kind of the basis of the sort of idea of writing a letter to Santa in order to get something that you want to receive for Christmas. So that's sort of where that concept comes in. And then there's all these other things that come into play beyond just the letter writing. The way that he uses his sleigh for transportation, the way that they're pulled by reindeer, the way that there's this clever moment where a kid wakes up during this sort of, not necessarily altercation, but sort of moment where they're delivering presents, where the sleigh is like heavy or something along those lines, I don't fully remember, and sort of it drops down a hill and then sort of swoops up and hits like another hill, and sort of flies through the sky for just a minute. But when this kid wakes up during this happen to be moment, and he looks outside of his window, he sees essentially Santa's sleigh flying. I think that was one of the most clever things in this because I am a massive Christmas fan. Just having the idea of where Santa came from, the idea of what the mythology that we built for this character and where it sort of came from, I think was immensely so ingenious for these writers to make this animated movie. Of course it's for kids, but watching it as an adult, it's just fascinating for me to watch. One of the biggest things, that moment, and it's in that moment that I realized that this is something bigger than just a kids movie. It just was so powerful in a way. I don't have any notes for this, by the way, so if I'm all over the place, you'll know why. I just really like this movie. I like that mythology building into this character that we all know in some capacity, and a lot of those sort of storylines are peppered throughout, and those moments, the things that we know about Christmas, and leaving out cookies and the milk and things like that, always coming down the chimney. A lot of really clever things are done in this movie, and it's not pandering to kids in a way that, oh, Santa was given this magical red suit, and then he had these magical reindeer that he concocted, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't pander to that. It doesn't talk down to its audience, whether it be the children or the adults watching it. It's very mature in a lot of ways. It does have some immature material peppered in, but the overall storyline, getting kids to go to school and be interested in writing, even if it's just to Santa to get something selfish, or not necessarily selfish, but to get a toy for themselves and be happy. This postman turns the town around. There's a lot of great things in this movie. I'm going way too long than I wanted to anyway, but there's a lot of great things in this movie that I highly recommend looking out for. It doesn't pander. It doesn't give you that just pure for flash cartoony stuff. It has actual substance to it, and I like that a lot. The only nitpick that I have about Klaus is sort of that idea of the main character doing it for such selfish reasons. Of course, towards the end, he has that sort of redeeming moment where he changes his mind, but I didn't like that sort of cliche storyline. Most of what they did in terms of the Christmas and Santa stuff was so original that they kind of had to have some of those cliche things about, that town divided and how this guy's being there selfishly, but then he turns it around and now he feels like he's part of it in this community. That stuff I could sort of do without. I feel like the runtime was a little bit too long in that aspect. If they had focused it more on that mythology and some portions of it, I think it would have been a lot better, but I still really love this movie. Again, I think it's one of those instant classic Christmas movies that I'm probably going to watch year after year, because I always watch, Home Alone, The Grinch, Christmas Story, you name it, but we all know those movies. This one is actually refreshing in terms of the content, in terms of the animation style, was absolutely gorgeous. I love that style. It was kind of like part 3D, part 2D. I don't really know what to call it. It was really amazing. This movie, I just knocked the camera. It was really amazing. I highly recommend watching Klaus. One of my favorite movies of probably the entire year. I haven't seen a ton of movies this year, but this one was probably one of the best ones. Storyline, visually, everything. Highly recommend watching, especially, I'll probably release this video on Christmas. So if it's Christmas, first of all, Merry Christmas. I totally missed all of that. But I highly recommend watching Klaus. Watch some of the other classics, but also make sure to pepper this one in. It's very important. You'll probably cry. I did a little bit, got a little bit teary-eyed, but I still highly recommend watching it. Definitely one of those, hopefully, to be instant classics. Probably said about it 50 times, but my brain is everywhere. Other than that, that's all I have on my thoughts on Klaus. Make sure you guys are subscribed. But yeah, those are essentially all my thoughts on Klaus. Make sure if you guys have seen it, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you are subscribed though, for real, that one's a good one. Because I actually have a ton of videos coming out. I know it's the holiday season, you got a ton of stuff going on right now, but why not release a slew of videos? I got my finale for watching Watchmen, I've got a couple of movie reviews, I've got a couple of trailer reviews, and something Star Wars related, not a review of Rise of Skywalker, but something that will hopefully help in the Star Wars universe or help the fans get those non-fans into the franchise. But other than that, those are my thoughts on Klaus. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.